And we're back with 90 Seconds Plus, and today we've got a special guest again, and this time it is Invercargill City Councillor Darren Ludlow. Hey Darren.
Michael, g'day.
Now Darren, only my mum and my ex-wife call me Michael.
Does that mean you're in trouble?
You're in trouble. But it's normally I'm in trouble when they go, Michael, and it's like, oh, I prick up and go.
No, what if it's your full name? That's when you're really in trouble.
Yeah, true.
First, second and middle name, it's like, I'm running out the door.
You know, it's that snap Michael. So anyway, we've got this new council seems to be getting things done, and so how are you finding it?
Oh, I walk along to the chamber and go in, and there it is. Yeah, good, actually. And it's the most commonly asked question, bearing in mind what we went through in the previous term.
Previous 2 terms.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how far back you want to go. Yeah, certainly the previous 2 terms. And if you look at what's going on in Gore now, I go, my response is I am cautiously optimistic, because actually everything seems to be ticking along really well. Look, obviously I contested the mayoralty and didn't get it, and that's fine. The idea is that you are elected to council, do the job, get on with it. That's all people want to know. I had my first meeting with the mayor. He said, look, these are the roles that I have for you, and this is the plan that I have. And okay, that was probably better than I'd hoped for. Well, I'm interested in this, this and this. Yep, fine. And, the meeting was almost over, and then we could move on to gossip. But no, it is functioning really well. And it's interesting because when I got on in 1998, half of the council was new. And so there's a real cultural risk there. You lose some of the institutional knowledge, and it is kind of frightening when I realise that these days I am the institutional knowledge, because I'm, the last man standing, really, longest serving councillor. And sometimes that's useful. It is nice in this term that it's recognised that the mayor is making use of the skill set that I have. And so you've got the enthusiasm of the new councillors, which for some of those who are not on their first term, it's helped to gee them along. It's good to be reminded what the role is about and see people with enthusiasm for it. And also to be challenged in a way of, a local government is a constantly evolving process because of the rules that the government sets for us, and they alter them, which is their want. And as things change, people who are coming in with a fresh perspective can challenge and go, well, why don't we look at this? And it's kind of like dealing with teenagers in a really good way. So teenagers will always ask the question, well, why not? And sometimes if you've been part of the furniture, for want of a better phrase, for a while, then you go, yeah, that's a good point. Why not? And so that's been really useful. If I look at Grant Dermody, for example, who I don't think we'd met prior to this, and it's always a challenge if you're a new councillor and you come into chairing a committee. He's doing really good. So he knows his stuff financially anyway. He's not a stranger to governance. He's just new to our systems. But, he's sought out council and talked with people and found his way very, very quickly. You've got Tom Campbell, who has been deep in governance for a long time and at really high levels. New to politics, and he and I had worked together as directors on local electricity companies, so I'd known the quantity of Tom, and I'd always rated him as I've described him as one of the smartest carbon-based units I've ever dealt with, and he is, and he's got a great process about him and a natural wisdom, which has meant that would you normally give a deputy mayoral role to a newcomer? No. But actually, because he's got such a strong skill set, it's worked really well. So yeah, council's good. You're never going to have a situation where everyone's getting on all the time, and that's fine because you don't want 13 people sitting at a table going, yes, that's right. You want to test boundaries. You want to thrash things out. It's understanding the rules of the game, and the rules are very simple. Say what you think, say what you feel, and put it out there. Vote the way you feel you should be voting. It's either how you personally, how it works with your ethics, or if you base your decision on the sort of feedback that you're getting from the community. Either way, it's up to you to decide. But when the result comes in, live with it and move on. because that's democracy. And if people don't like democracy, there are other places they can go to where it's not necessarily a comfortable place to live. So across the 7 previous terms, I've learned how to lose a lot, and look, and I'm really comfortable with that, because I can go and say, well, I said what I felt, I put it out there. Some people may have changed their perspective, some don't, and it's then not my role to undermine the decision if it wasn't what I wanted, but to support it. And it's about perspective. I go, look, I understand what you're saying, but actually council's decision was this. And whilst I might not have supported the decision, I support democracy, and that's how we roll. So I am enjoying it, and I am to a degree reinvigorated. I think by 2 things. One, I do like the vibe that's coming from working with this new team, and the other is that in my mind I've kind of thought this is probably my last term.
So you may as well go out getting stuff done. And
well, yeah, exactly. And it's nice to be in a semi-mentoring role to make sure that everything is, if you're going to sell a house, make it look good before you sell it. Right. So how can I help? How can I enable people? I've got all this institutional knowledge that I want to make sure other people are aware of, that's going to make their journey in local government fun, because it's not easy. It's incredibly frustrating, both internally and externally. And that external world has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. We'll see that later this year when we get into a national election.
Yes.
People are, I guess, less tolerant.
More tribal, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it. And we've got a by-election going on at the moment. There's a few people that are sticking their hands up for that. And again, for them, it's a case of really knowing what it is that they're getting into. Now, how many of them have actually been to a meeting? And I don't mean watching it online, because you don't get all the subtleties as you can from being in the chamber. How many people actually understand what the job is? I mean, I've had conversations with councillors in the past, and talk to them about what they want to achieve, and go, well, that's great aspirationally. It's not our job though. That's the role of central government. So what is it that we can do? One of the most common things that people talk about, and I believe it's a misconception, is about stuff being done behind closed doors. So progressively, over the last several terms actually, we have pushed back on what can be dealt with in committee and what can be dealt with at workshops. So really testing stuff. Does that need to go into committee? Yes. Can we explain why? And that's fine. And what can we release afterwards? And that's really healthy. The other is what we do in workshops. Now, workshops are a space for kind of spitballing ideas, really, or bringing people up to speed with the details of things, or giving staff an indication of the direction that we'd like a paper to be written. And then, in open meeting, the decision-making process started. Now, I wasn't thrilled at the idea of some of the workshops being open and live, but that was the mayor's prerogative. We worked through. I said, look, there's one at the beginning that we need to kind of set the basic conversation up, and after that, let's see how it goes. And I chaired the first open workshop. A bit nervous about it, to be fair, and it's not like I'm a novice at chairing, but I'm actually quite positive about how things have gone. I still, there are still times when workshops can't be in open, but it's been that whole, well, why not?
And I think it's good because again, the more public can help understand how it works and what you guys have to go through, or what you're limited with because of the rules and the laws or whatever, I think it's a really good thing. That again, it's just another little bit so the public the ratepayers understand a little bit, because it's easy to look from the outside in and think, but they don't need to realise just what sometimes has to go on behind, or to make it happen.
It's a common phrase that I've used. Sometimes a lot of what we do is not sexy. Not at all.
It's outright boring.
And mostly people don't care. As long as they flush the toilet and the business goes away and somebody picks up the rubbish and their car doesn't disappear into a pothole on the way to work, they will bitch about their rates bill every quarter when they have to pay it. But apart from that, as long as the services keep coming, that's fine. There are people who are interested, and it's good. There are people, the most enjoyable thing about being on council are the people who come to you directly because they don't know where else to go. and being able to help them it's really cool. It kind of makes the crappy days a bit more worthwhile. But there are days that are going to be crappy, and it's learning how to deal with that. And while people will quite often unload on you, they're not actually unloading on you personally. And if they are, they don't know you.
A lot of the time, they just want to be heard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, well, we submitted, but you don't listen," and that's not true. We do listen, but sometimes the point that somebody has made in a submission isn't the way that we decide to go. That doesn't mean we haven't heard it and considered it and thought about it. So we do listen, but if you want to help affect good change, it's making sure that you do have that say, because the more people that come forward and give us the sort of feedback about how they're feeling on different things, the more we're likely to be swayed by that. That said, if I got 500 emails, which might have happened last year, over a certain subject, and it's all the same thing, that doesn't sway you. And even lobbying, you've got to look through what it is that people are coming forward. You absolutely listen to them, but they have an objective and something that they're advocating for, and that's fine.
Or their own agenda.
Or their own, which is fine. But ultimately, we've got a whole lot of other things that we have to consider when making the decision that they don't know of, or we don't have a specific agenda to follow, and that's how it works. I mean, if you're the sort of person who takes stuff personally, if you're not open to listening through a process, then don't stand. In my first term, I remember watching Councillor Ian Rangi. Now, he was an older guy, still is actually, bless him, who very dignified man. And I watched him in a meeting, and we were in the middle of a debate on something, and he said, I hadn't thought of that. I came along here with an idea of how of the position that I have, but you've just raised something that I haven't thought of, and I'm going to change my mind. And I watched that and thought, geez, that's so grown up. It makes good sense. And so ever since that moment, I've modelled how I make decisions on that. I have read papers and I've come along expecting an outcome. I've run hearings when I've looked at all the documents beforehand, and yet somebody sitting down in front of me has raised a matter that wasn't in there, and you go, oh, okay, that's a good point. And you change your position, not being afraid to change where you're at. Being open-minded is, I think, what most people expect of you.
And I think it's been good this council too. Mayor Clark's not scared to challenge a couple of the quieter councillors who may not always partake, but it's quite good sometimes he'll, out of the blue, ask Barry or someone, what do you think, Barry, of a certain subject? And I think it's actually really good. And it's been good to see more robust debate and discussion, I think. And my personal observation in the past has been, to some extent, I think previous councils have just sort of rubber stamped a lot of the stuff, whereas now it's quite good you do challenge the staff a little bit more about some of the things and different bits. It's actually really good.
It's figuring out how you challenge them, and staff don't mind being challenged as long as you're coming at it from the right angle. And in some cases, you need to realise actually they do have qualifications and they do probably understand things better, but they too need to have that same. Oh, actually, I hadn't thought of that. And from my experience, most of them do. And if you can give them a different perspective to come from, they'll go away, consider it, and quite often change. The way that the museum project was an issue at the election, and I think the outcome that we're at is fabulous. I mean, this is someone who tried to get the museum project up and running for several terms, but everyone compromised. And I think the outcome that we're going to be at will be good. Councillors are no doubt that people just want us to get on with it, get the damn thing built. And so we've set that project of 1225. It's going to be the building. It's not going to be open at that point. But that's, and we're trundling along to that at a great rate of knots. We've got an amazing team who are driving that project now. I can't believe what we've been able to score. These people know their business, and it's really exciting, and it's great because it's something else that somebody else is doing now, so I can focus on the other areas that I'm involved in.
It's 90 Seconds Plus with Invercargill City Councillor Darren Ludlow. Till next time, see you later.